Hey guys, Zangetsu 124 here, bringing you another My Hero Academia review, this time Season 4, Episode 5. Sorry it's been a little bit, but me and Colton were hanging out. We don't have a lot more days to hang out, because our work schedules are going to change soon, but, you know, wanted to hang out. I'm hoping we're also going to, but unfortunately we were hanging out in a way that kind of made it hard for us to film the next episode of Remember the Hyphen, but that should be coming at some point. So, anyway, but that's not why you're here. You're here to see me talk about the new episode of My Hero Academia. Like I said, sorry I was a little late, but we're here now. So, in this episode, we're introduced to a couple new characters, particularly Kirishima, Uraraka, and Sue's internships. The fact that Kirishima is with Tamaki of the Big Three, interning under the hero Fat Gum. His quirk is absorption or fat absorption. He can absorb anything into his fat, no matter what. In fact, he's sort of like Luffy in that regard, except he can actually absorb bladed attacks. The hero Ryukyu, the Dragoon hero, as she's called, the number 9 hero, which I'm not going to spoil what her quirk is. You can probably figure out by the name, but that will actually come into play in another episode. So I'm not going to explain what her quirk is. We actually also get to see Nejire and Tamaki's quirks. But anyway, Uraraka and Siu and Nejire are under Ryukyu, which I actually have to say she's pretty bold to have like 3 interns. Anyway, basically, we get to see Uraraka, Siu, and Nejire helping Ryukyu take down some bad guys. And we get to see Nejire's quirk, which is, I think it's like I forget exactly what it's called. But basically, she can turn her life force into energy that she can use to create energy attacks. Usually it spirals thanks to her ability. I think she can also fly with it. It's not really made completely clear, but I think she can fly with her quirk. but yeah, basically she introduces the plot point that Night Eye is requesting a bunch of hero agencies to team up and work together to investigate the Shie Hasekai. In doing so, basically, while this is going on, we learn about the Shie Hasekai's plan to an extent while they convince Tomura Shigaraki to join them. Basically, Overhaul wants to create a special type of bullet that has a drug in it that will completely negate someone's quirk. Basically, it's like Eraserhead's quirk, except he's working on trying to make it more permanent. Right now, it can only temporarily take away someone's quirk, which happens to Maki at the end. During this episode, he gets shot with it, and he can not manifest his quirk. But while this is all going on, we see that Tamaki, Kirishima, and Fat Gum are patrolling. Fat Gum eating takoyaki, but that's important because to him because his quirk needs him to constantly eat to create more fat so that his body can absorb more and more stronger blows. He needs the more fat he has, the better his absorption is. I only know that because I've obviously read through this already, but I just wanted to bring up why he's eating so much. Tamaki's quirk is actually similar, which we'll get to. Basically, a group of street thugs are running after, I think, committing a robbery or getting called out for stealing or selling stuff on someone's turf. But basically, Tamaki and Fat Gum work together to eliminate the thugs while Kirishima watches because he's young. And he's there to observe and only help when needed. Which is a shame because Uraraka and Siu actually create a combination attack where where Uraraka creates a bunch of debris and Siu uses her tongue to throw it to create like a meteor storm. It was actually really cool. I think it's called like I think it's called like Frocketo Meteor or something like that, kind of like a combination of Froppy and Rocket. I think Uraravedi name is in there, but I can't remember the name. I can't remember the whole name. But anyway, Fat Gun takes out a couple of thugs, and Tamaki shows off his quirk, which is Manifest, and it's honestly one of my favorite quirks in the whole show. I love Tamaki's quirk. It's so cool, and he's really cool with using it. Basically, whatever he eats, he can manifest traits about it. On this, he turns his fingers into octopus from eating takoyaki, octopus fritters, to ensnare a guy and knocks him out by turning his other hand into a clam from eating clam preserves. and then after doing so, he holds him in place using chicken talons. Basically, he creates wings and talons on his legs. The wings weren't necessary, but it was more, I think, because just the way he manifests things. But I love his quirk. Honestly, the big three, I think his quirk is the most powerful. Nejire is probably the second most powerful, and technically Mirio's is the weakest of the three. But to be fair, the way Mirio uses it, you wouldn't. In terms of skill, Mirio's the strongest, but in terms of just raw quirk potential, I honestly think it's Tamaki's. Tamaki's is so cool. He's gonna do some cooler stuff later on, but I love his quirk. It's one of my favorite quirks, and probably something I would come up with if I could create my own quirk. Um, but yeah, it's really really cool. And so basically, Tamaki gets shot by a quirk bullet by one of the thug's friends who is in the area, and Kirishima, feeling kind of left out, decides to chase this dude after he first shoots him and then shoots Kirishima. But Kirishima doesn't get hurt because he activates his quirk at the right time. Basically, after Tamaki gets shot, in order to protect him, he hardens his body and he gets hit in the head. But because of his hardening, the dart can't penetrate. Uh, we saw these darts in the episode where the Shie Hakusai attack. Basically, they're these little red darts that have a needle at the end that administers a drug that more or less erases a person's quirk. It's temporary right now, but the Shie Hakusai are obviously working on a way to make it permanent. Um, and so basically, he chased this guy into an alley, and they get into a scuffle. And his quirk is not very powerful. He can just make 10 centimeter blades on his arms, or I think, yeah, I think it's only on his arms. Kirishima tries to be like, you ran, you shot someone and ran. That's not very manly. If you were truly wanting to help your bros, you would have stayed and fought. Kind of like, I understand how you feel, but you still did a bad thing and shot my friend. So you have to come with me. And so he manages to, like, basically using his quirk, he's able to fight in close combat because the blades once again cannot harm him using his hardening. So he basically he after getting hit, he uses one of his moves known as Red Counter, where basically, after a person attacks Kirishima and gets close, he basically just hits him with a with a sucker punch, more or less. Well, not really a sucker punch, but basically he gets close and hits him with a punch, like a counter, like the Pokemon move counter, basically. Um, and so it basically, like, all of his talk, talk that Kirishima says convinces the dude to keep fighting, even though he's very weak-willed, and he pulls out a canister, and the canister is filled with what they call a quirk booster. I think this is the first time they bring up the idea of enhancing your quirk with a drug. And I honestly think that this is a reference to My Hero Academia Vigilantes. There's a couple references in the anime. I think in the manga they talk about the quirk boosting stuff, but they don't bring it up because at the time Vigilantes was not a thing, but it is now. It hasn't gotten an anime yet, but in the spin-off Vigilantes, the whole plot of that is that the main character and his group of vigilantes are trying to track down this drug cartel that's creating a quirk boosting drug known as Ideo Trigger. Basically, it boosts your quirk to its natural upper limit, basically like maximizing the power output of its quirk. In this case, instead of making 10 centimeter blades in just his arms, the dude can make gigantic blades, like many meters long, on any part of his body. In fact, when he uses the quirk, like, a blade is like coming out of his eye and then just popping out of him. He basically, like, lets it go haywire for a moment. I actually think that the drug he's using is actually Trigger. But it's hard to tell because you don't see his tongue. One of the characteristics of Trigger is that the tongue turns black. But we don't see his tongue, and I don't. And to be fair, like I said, I think it might be like a different version of Trigger or like an offshoot. They bring up ideas of what this quirk is because they say like it only lasted a few minutes here, whereas like in the U.S. like quirk boosting drugs can last anywhere from like an hour to 2 hours. I do think it's Trigger, especially because later on Fatgum brings up that in his heyday, in his early days, he used to chase thugs like this all the time, which I think is a reference to Vigilantes, because in Vigilantes there's a chapter where he actually helps the heroes and some cops apprehend Trigger. I actually met Well, I meant Fat Gum in the regular manga, but Fat Gum is actually in Vigilantes, and some friends of mine are ordering the volumes, and he's in Vigilantes. And sorry, I'm going off into a tangent about Vigilantes, but it's kind of interesting. They bring up quirk boosting drugs here, and the whole plot of Vigilantes is about stopping this drug cartel from them making a quirk boosting drug. I do like the idea of quirk boosting drugs because I want to say in Marvel they actually do that for there is a drug that mutants can take that can boost their mutant powers. I think I know some of them can be genetically experimented on or have surgeries that can boost their mutations. But anyway, getting back to the and so Kirishima almost gets stabbed by this dude because he's trying to use his quirk and is trying to draw his attack in so he doesn't hurt civilians. Well, basically the dude rushes him with all these blades, which causes Kirishima to go into a flashback, basically to explain what's going to happen in the next couple seconds. So basically, when Kirishima, Kaminari, Sero, Bakugo, and I think someone else. I want to say there was someone else. I want to say maybe Sato. I can't remember. There wasn't. I think another guy. But basically, Kirishima was thinking back to when they were developing ultimate moves for the provincial license exam. That All Might was like, your quirk is quite powerful. Instead of doing like like smaller tricks, you should just work on strengthening your quirk so that you can just bulldoze through anything. And Kirishima's trying to figure out what he meant by that. And I actually like this because it's one of the better Bakugo moments. Bakugo basically inspires Kirishima to create a new super move. Basically, Bakugo's like, when All Might was fighting in Kamino Ward, he, he just kept going, even though he knew he couldn't win. He just kept going when hitting with overwhelming power and basically bulldozed his way to victory. And then also talks about how when I first started talking to you, you talked about how you were going to be a horse that never wavers, referencing the sports festival where he convinces Bakugo to join with him in the. I'm sorry, I keep looking over face. My computer's right here at Facebook, and in case I need to look something up while I'm talking. Um, and so basically he's like, if your ability is you're a horse that never wavers, then you need to strengthen your body and make it so that you can never fall, which inspires Kirishima to develop his new move, which basically makes him an unbreakable, unbeatable wall. And so he maximizes the hardness of his quirk all over his body to its highest hardening that he can do. And I know you're probably all making jokes about that. Trust me, I've made them myself. So basically, he forms it. Basically turns his whole body into stone. And in fact, even like spikes protrude off his skin. That's how much he's hardening himself. And he even hardens his eyes, which I'm like, that has to hurt. And so he becomes a form that he can only hold for 30 to 40 seconds. But to be fair, like with that kind of raw power, that's all you need. And he becomes Red Riot Unbreakable. And it looks so cool. And I got points to the animation because it looks really cool. It almost looks like he's made of metal. Like his fingers become claws. The new sleeves he had to his costume is just shredded from him maximizing the hardness and like becoming all jagged. And I also love the sound stuff they do here because they literally like his body is so hard that like his body's actually creaking when he moves. And so basically the blades just shatter on his body, and Kirishima rushes him because that's the brilliance of this ability, because when his body is that hardened, he doesn't need to worry about like strategy or anything else. He just needs to barrel through whatever comes his way and just use the time allotted to him to just defeat his opponent in one killer move. And so basically he draws knowing that there's civilians all over, he draws the dude's fire to him by saying, look at me, I'm gonna come and beat you up. And so Kirishima like rushes him, and the dude even tries to beat him by like concentrating all his blades to his torso and just shooting like a wave of blades at him. But it's not enough. Kirishima just drives through it and then hits him with his new ultimate move, the Red Gun Turret, which is basically it's just his name for like his punch when he's in unbreakable mode, and it's super great. I love that Kirishima basically manages to beat him. He doesn't like knock him out, but the dude basically knows he can't win. Even though Kirishima has at this point completely used up his a lot of time, and his body reverts to, his regular form, and you can even see like steam coming off his body, like it, like, yeah, implying that like doing that kind of exhausted him. And so he thinks the dude like has reverted back, like the drug only lasted for a few seconds, and he like returns to his sobbing mode. But what he actually did was he actually shot a blade out of his back to launch him into the air. Unfortunately, Fat Gun catches up to him, and he gets sucked into his fat. He even tries to use the blades, but I think the idea, because like Kyoshi, Fat Gun's like, you gotta make sure you beat all the spirit out of a villain, like, because a villain has so many ways they can win, by killing us, knocking us out, getting away, but we only have a hero only has one way to win, and that's to completely break the spirit of the bad guy. And I think it kind of implies, because like eventually the dude goes limp, that he kind of got smothered in the fat, in Fat Gum's fat. I don't think he died or anything. I think he just basically, like, because the blades couldn't poke through him, and because like it probably was like he was losing air, he kind of went limp because he realized he couldn't get out. But and basically, Kirishima gets told he gets a good job. The civilians actually like thank him and ask him what his name is, and we get a weird flashback to him much younger. Because it looks like he's wearing a middle schooler's outfit and watching a certain someone rushing at a monster attacking kids, kind of reminding him about something. I won't say what that is, because again, that's actually plays back to a later part with Kirishima, so I won't say anything about that for now. Just keep that in mind as you're watching the rest of the series. Um, but basically, the episode ends about there, and excuse me. Basically, after the end credits, we get an after credits scene where basically everyone gets back to school, and it turns out Kirishima, Froppy, or Siu, and Uraraka are in the news with their hero names, and basically that they've become pretty famous. And we get to see Izuku, who hasn't shown up in any part of this episode until this point, basically talking about, how everyone's doing real well, and then he remembers that little girl, and basically all the things that's happening to him right now. He's felt a little overwhelmed, and he's just kind of thinking about things, remembering that little girl who was captured by the bad guys, and basically he puts his hand up and clenches, like saying, I'm gonna, the next time I get a chance to, I'm gonna save her. And that's where the episode ends. We also get some stuff. We get to see a couple of the Shie Hasakai guys use their quirks. Particularly the little short guy that sits on Overhaul's shoulder. I think his name's Mimic. I kind of forget the names of the Shie Hasakai because they're not really important after this arc. But Mimic and this dude in a white cloak called Kurono. I want to say his name is actually in English like just Chrono, but well, you don't see what his ability is. He basically draws a gun on Shigaraki, but Mimic like turns himself into this big muscular dude. But yeah, they don't get to do anything at that point. Just showing that they do have some interesting quirks. And basically, Shigaraki talks about his demands for working with them. Basically, that the league is free to do whatever they want, and I want to know what your plan is because I want some compensation for killing Meg and destroying one of Compress's arms. But yeah, basically that's the episode. And I have to admit, this is probably the best episode we've had of the 5 episodes we've gotten so far. There's a lot of action. It really moves the plot along. We get to see some new quirks and some new characters. We get to see some of our recurring cast actually get to do some stuff. And I think it really shows that this show can, still be interesting even without Izuku in the back, at the front. The animation was really stellar. I love seeing Tamaki and Kirishima finally get their big moments animated. Because it's been like a year since I've read those chapters, and it was really fun to read. I might have to find those again and reread through because I cannot. I remember a lot of the stuff that happens. It's been like a year, and like I am reading concurrently with the manga as it comes out, but it's hard for me to completely remember everything because there's just so much and so many characters. But overall, this was a solid episode. Oh, and also, of course, getting to see my boy Fat Gum actually do some stuff, which that was cool. Overall, I would recommend this episode. It's definitely one of the better episodes of this season. And if you haven't watched The Edge, you should. Um, in fact, I think it's dubbed too. I actually did see the Red Riot scene dubbed, and it was really well done. I think the dub does a really good job. I just 9 times out of 10, I just watch it subbed anyways because it's a little easier, and I don't care if this show I think has both a good Japanese and English voice cast. It's not like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure that I think needs to be watched in Japanese because a lot of the jokes are better in Japanese. You don't get the awesome English that JoJo does. And also the stands actually get to have their actual names. Like Echoes and Gold Experience and Killer Queen and Crazy Diamond. Yeah, that's one of my big complaints about watching JoJo dub because especially in the later seasons, I give some credit. They do try a little bit. Um at least with Crazy Diamond, I think they changed the Shining Diamond. It wasn't that bad, but the fact they changed from echoes to reverb, it's I don't even understand why they felt the need to do that. Echoes I know is a Pink Floyd album, but the word echoes, it's just the word echoes, and I know it has the axe thing. Let's change the word axe to level. I know that would still kind of change, but it's a change, but it's not changing from echoes to reverb. Echoes and reverb are not the same thing. Or in my personal favorite, changing the character's stand name to just the name of the season. That's my one of my big pet peeves with Vento Rio, because Vento Rio is just Italian for golden wind, and Giorno Stand, the main character Stand, is called Gold Experience. From the song, they changed it to Golden Wind. Guys, don't do that. It's annoying because usually the name of the name implies things about the stand the main character, like how Diamond, how part 4 is called Diamond is Unbreakable, because Crazy Diamond is unbreakable, and anything that breaks it unbreaks. I know, that's just, it's still better than calling Sticky Fingers Zipper Man. Zipper Man. But anyway, guys, that's rants on dubbing aside. I think that's gonna call it for this episode. I'm looking forward to this Saturday's episode. I might actually try to actually watch it the day it comes out and actually give you the video when it comes out. I keep meaning to do that. It's just it's hard for me to do so on a Saturday. But anyway, guys, whenever I get it out, I'm Zangetsu 134, and as always, take care.